a big thank you to everyone that subscribed in recent weeks so that now I've reached the 50,000 level. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So back to the topic at hand, namely the despicable orange abomination that we're forced to deal with these days, and his fitful attempts to do what he always does, which is to just basically start distracting and pointing away from what is happening. And so because he's in this Epstein debacle of his own making, and especially because his own supporters are demanding more, he's turning to the usual distractions on his Truth antisocial platform, where he tweets and retweets and does a lot of middle of the night in capitals nonsense, creates long screeds with nothing but utter BS, including that, according to him, we should be renaming the Washington Commanders, a team formerly known as the Redskins, and he thinks that this should be taken back and they should be renamed what they were. In fact, he even went further and suggested that if they don't do it, he might prevent them from building a stadium or some such thing, assuming he has that kind of power, which he probably doesn't. But he might be right, although maybe instead of changing their name to the Washington, whatever, the Redskins like they were, what about calling them the Washington Epsteins? That would be pretty good. Or he suggested the Cleveland Indians also should go back to the name they had, or rather he wants them to go back to being the Indians. I can't even remember now what the new name is, but a good name might be the Cleveland Tacos. There are lots of ways this could go. But in any case, between that and his, creating AI videos of he in the White House sitting, smiling while Obama is being taken away by the FBI, arrested for supposed crimes that he never committed. Once again, getting into in this case, pretty obvious racial undertones. All of that is supposed to be, presumably, for his supporters, but then we get Marjorie Taylor Scream, the clan mama of all people, saying, oh no, this is not enough. You can't just pitch red meat, some red meat at your supporters. They want a full steak. I'm sure that's the language he understands, since apparently this is his preferred meal is a big steak with ketchup, which separately may not be the best way to go in dealing with his recently complicating health problems. So, but here's the thing. It isn't going to work, especially not in the near term, not right now. We are right at the era station, which happens tomorrow, and perfectly reflects the jam that he's in. And so, no chance of that. Plus, in the immediate term, and I mean now until the end of the month, Mars is only now entering into the zone where his sun and moon are, and so guaranteed increased irritability, anger, combativeness, yelling and screaming, public and or private, doesn't matter, and not a lot of fun. And indeed, the Uranus is in the legal house. That is hitting his Venus, that's the topic, underage women, etc., but it's in the legal house, which also separately connects to the lawsuit from the Wall Street Journal. But the Mars is the ruler of that legal house, so it carries that energy around the zodiac, and it's just now getting into the square to the two planets. So absolutely no way that he's not squirming until at least the end of the month. In fact, my hope, and it's probably hoping for too much, probably won't happen, but what I'm hoping is that the Wall Street Journal and or Murdoch, the whole organization, trolls him mercilessly because he has no standing in suing them. Zero. He's going nowhere with that. And at least on the merits anyway. And they could say, hey, you're going to do a taco here because you got nothing, and we have the evidence, and besides, like, seriously, you're gonna do a deposition and we're gonna be talking about Epstein? Is this how it's gonna work? Very unlikely. But the thing is, I'm hoping, and I realize that it might be too much. I mean, in the end, Murdoch is at his advanced age of 94, is a Capricorn, and Capricorn energy, particularly someone like Murdoch, will probably play it safe to avoid further complications. But either way, it's not a topic that he can really win, and it's yet again all show for his supporters, and to show that he's fighting and so forth. But he's probably waiting for, I don't know, some Friday in the near future to withdraw the suit, because it's a waste of time, and it's even dangerous to him should it proceed to any level. But all of this said, we still have to keep in mind that, yes, in the near term, it's rough for this guy, but if you're expecting him to collapse completely on account of any of this, I'm skeptical. I think the health angle, definitely. This is like an anytime type of thing because of how incredibly serious it is as reflected by the planets. The other topics, it's a question of the damage that it's doing, the fact that even if his supporters, the majority of the supporters that have left, come back, the whole point is to keep chipping away at those numbers, because there will be some people that will not vote or that will vote against him. And going into election season, which we pretty well now are going to be in soon, since we're going to get important governorship races in New Jersey and in Virginia, and then of course next year is a full election year, and 100% next year the energy is incredibly hostile because of the Saturn cycles. But it's a question of moving one step at a time, staying in there, staying focused, and seeing it through. To my mind, expecting miracles, of course, we'll take them if it happens, no question. I mean, I'd love to see the Uranus cycle, for example. The Uranus cycle, which is, right now it's in early Gemini, but it will be coming back into Taurus next year in its final swing through there. And that Uranus is both a major vulnerability for him through the square to his Mars and to his ascendant, as well as the reflection in the U.S. chart, because the U.S. chart has that late Aquarius moon, which means that the Uranus squares it, thereby potentially suggesting some big, unexpected, shocking event. Sure, that's possible, but there are so many ways that could show up, and I'm not expecting something that would completely terminate him, unless it's the health angle, because that planet, as well as quite a few others, are implicated in the health patterns. I'll finish by saying something about a totally different character who is like Trump, running in excess mode through the Jupiter being in a cardinal sign, Cancer, and therefore Jupiter being in Cancer leads to excess for some cancers, although that would be usually the least dangerous, but especially for Capricorn, Libra, and Aries. And I mean, in the case of Trump, the excess isn't because of his sun sign, it's because of that T-square of his. But the person I'm talking about is Netanyahu, he's doing so much, he's getting involved in so much violence and so much nefarious activity. And by the way, the reason is because he wants to stay out of his own legal jams, potentially prison. But even it's so bad that he's now irritating the Trump White House with his actions. But when you're looking at his situation, if you're wondering why isn't he being brought to account, patience, because this is fitting into the patterns next year when Saturn catches up to his planets, and it's a matter of waiting. Another person that falls into that category is the Russian fascist oligarch Putin, because he's got a slew of planets in Libra as well. All right, there you have it for now.